Do you have an opinion on what's good content and bad content?
I suppose I would say I do. For me, it really depends on what kind of content you're making. So, for example, I'm not a fan of content that is the business model behind the content that you're making is drama or is controversy.
South Africa loves that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if it's a South Africa thing or is it an Africa thing?
Or even
I'm curious.
Western influence. But I'll tell you, look, America gave us a lot of your Jerry Springer, Ricky Lake and stuff as a start.
Yes.
Cheaters. And then from an African perspective, I think we had Itori on Ukhozi FM, Midday, the Love Triangles, Ukthakatha, and then Nollywood came with the visual. And then today, even if you look at a lot of our shows, A Crime Family, somewhere go back on Ukthakatha, there's obviously a love triangle. And then our reality TV kind of copied the Western model. And when you look at our podcasts, the ones that have been bumping.
Yeah.
Should I give them shout outs? Let me mention them.
Okay.
So you've got Podcast and Chill, which has a diverse content, but it became popular for Shock, Dropping Files, Iskata.
Yes.
Currently, you've got these young kids who are doing, I think it's called the Open Chat podcast.
Yeah.
They're bringing on strippers, girls from OnlyFans. You had Okokos Koteni doing the venting podcast, gossip as well, Ubungoma, Ukthakatha. I think there's Witchcraft podcast with Ukoko Maweni. So you realize those ones are the flavor. Musa Kaula as well as the gossip queen of South Africa. That seems to hold more than any other podcast that does alternative is probably not known. Is how much people prefer
that content.
That type of.
Look, I suppose I'm thinking of the line that Kendrick Lamar during this beef between him and Drake. I just can't remember the exact words he used, but basically saying, "Would you make music that pacifies them?"
Damn.
I can't remember. I make music. I can't remember when he was talking about himself.
As urban poet Kendrick Lamar says.
Yeah.
Have you heard that quote?
Yeah.
Malusi Kikabo.
Yes.
As urban poet Kendrick Lamar says, we will be right. We will be all right.
There we go. Yeah. So I don't want to look down upon that content in a, I don't want to speak as though it's beneath me.
Yeah.
There's a channel that I watch, a guy who profiles or talks about, like, for example, there's a video he did recently. I just forgot his name, Patrick CC. So he did a video recently between the feud between The Rock and Vin Diesel.
Okay.
The way that he portrayed the feud, there's a lot you can learn from it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not to run away from such content completely. So he went back to when the beef started. He spoke about.
Do they have a beef?
I don't know now.
Oh, they had a beef.
Yeah. For
I
a very
had no
long
idea.
time. For a very long time. So both of them are action type,
Yeah.
Istering.
Sure.
Itering boy too,
Sure.
know. Yeah, basically. So they had an issue once they started working together, if I remember correctly, on
Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, Fast and the Furious, exactly. Which now I think it's just Fast, and at some point it was just F. So
Damn.
they had a
Then fuck.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious F. Fuck it. Damn.
Yeah. They had basically they to summarize so that we don't make this about that feud. They basically had an ego type of feud.
Okay.
They both own their own production companies. They're both visionaries. They're both very big superstars who are known for basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And they're both incredibly successful in terms of the films that they've brought out.
Yeah.
So they had this long, drawn-out ego feud, which eventually led to particularly The Rock, sort of like things surfacing about him. Because he sells this image of being isteringi that's also nice. He can punch through a wall, but he's also a very nice guy who can hold a child.
Little kids and be safe around them.
Exactly, yeah. So you had those, whereas Vin Diesel, I think for the most part, he sells this very stering.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even when he's off camera, he tries to sell the stering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically who he is. So it got to a point where The Rock left the franchise. Like he announced Uguti because of that feud, he left the
Hectic.
franchise.
I was not aware of this.
Yeah, exactly. It was quite hectic. So there's a lot to it, but the point I'm getting at with mentioning all of that is this. If you watch how Patrick makes his videos, I mean, there's a number of them that he made. There's one that he made about a basketball player, female basketball player, who is doing the absolute most.
Yeah.
That almost the whole industry was beefing with her. Even referees would let other players tackle her in a very rough way and they wouldn't do anything. Newspapers were writing about how she thinks she's the best and she's not really. And the way that he talks about all of these types of drama and feud, it's like he takes you through the history of where the feud comes from, where the people and individuals come from, why they became so great.
Yeah.
And after watching every one of his videos, I feel like I've learned something. Right?
Okay.
Like, for example, with the Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, and Vin Diesel, one thing that you take away from that one is the more when you climb and become as big as they've become, your ego gets in the way of you making good business decisions.
Yeah.
Like this decision that they made together made them millions.
Yeah.
But just because they were both up there, they just couldn't, their egos couldn't be in the same room, exist in the same room.